Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition. I'm Violet.
And I'm Pat.
We make these videos to help people to understand some of the information that's floating around the internet and about keto. And Patrick finds interesting articles, videos, ideas, and he brings them here for us to discuss. So, what are we talking about today?
This week, I have a little surprise for you, actually. That was an article that caught my attention that was titled How to Keep on Keto When Feeling Depressed. So we're talking a little bit about depression and what happened so for even for you guys, I think I'm in that seat today. I'm gonna be in the learning position. Let's dive into this. Depression. What's depression? Or if we can go I know you can talk probably about depression for 2 weeks, but quickly, how do you how would someone know if
So
they're
basically,
depressed? Or
people throw the word around depressed like it's a game. I'm so depressed today. I'm so.
yeah, no, we're
No, if
talking.
you're depressed for an extended period of time. Now, I don't have my DSM in front of me to tell me. I
What's
can't remember. I
depression?
can't remember exactly how many weeks it is, but
Hmm.
you're in a very negative state where you don't feel like you have hope, where you don't feel like you could feel helpless. There's a lot of negative emotions happening where you maybe don't have the motivation to live your life to do anything positive, and it's lasting for. I can't remember how many weeks it is. There's actually a number
Okay.
of weeks that they say,
Long term, long
but it's long
time. It's
term. I
not
mean, by
like
the
one
time
day.
people are in my office, they've been feeling depressed for months by
Hmm.
that point before they decide to come and see me. So it's clear to diagnose that they're depressed for a few weeks. The other thing is that if your depression can be explained by something else. So you don't get a diagnosis of depression if someone passes away. That's grief. It's different. You don't get a diagnosis of depression if you become ill unless it's extended past the point where it would be normal again. Because if let's say tomorrow I learn that I have breast cancer, you think I'm going to feel a extreme sadness, and that could look like depression. However, there's a reason for it, right? So unless I don't come back from it, like
The
once
depression
I go through my treatments and everything is solved, if I still don't come back from that, then I could get
that
a diagnosis of depression. So
okay,
it's not so straight cut as there's a feeling you're
okay.
depressed. Right. This is why I get so frustrated when I see normal, happy, everyday people
No,
talking
sorry,
about feeling depressed. I'm so
depressed. Yeah,
depressed today because, Walmart special fin.
yeah. They can be quite they can be what
It's insulting.
sad, down,
Sad, down, frustrated, annoyed.
right.
They use.
Yeah.
I do get annoyed when I hear people using the word depressed for things that doesn't mean
Mm.
depressed.
But okay, but let's make a link with nutrition, with diet. How can it affect a real depressed person? What would be the effects on the diet?
Okay, so if I'm actually depressed, and so this is where some elements of depression are very scary. If I'm actually depressed, I am very likely not to take care of myself.
Hmm.
So because I don't have the motivation. I don't have the interest in life. I don't have the interest in me. I I see a lot of people when they're depressed that one of two things happens. Either they waste away because they're just not feeding themselves because I'm not worth the energy to get up and make something.
Okay, not eating at all then.
Yeah, they're
That
just
can
not
okay.
eating. Yeah,
They're
they're
not eating.
just
Okay,
like whatever,
okay,
they kind of get into this whatever and they stop eating. So I see that.
okay.
Scary.
Hmm.
But then we see the other side of the coin where they're not feeding themselves properly. So I'm not going to invest in cooking myself a meal, heaven
Hmm.
forbid. But also that because I'm not happy, so because I'm depressed, the only small little amounts of pleasure I am getting is from the food
From
I'm
food.
eating.
Okay.
And what kind of food do we know that gives us pleasure?
Carbs, of course.
Carbohydrates. So
Hmm.
I sometimes have people who, first of all, their weight is rising, sadly, but their health is diminishing because what they're eating is things like bread. They're eating like crackers. It's funny because it might not even be food that looks like sugar.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
like they're eat, bread, crackers. They will be, of course, eating cookies and chocolate bar. But I'm just
Yeah.
saying, when it's time for a meal, they're
Okay.
eating bread and crackers
Okay.
and like these
So
small little
basically, they
snacky
could be
things
snacking all the time,
instead
not
of
having
making a
meals.
meal,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Or
Okay.
eating
Okay.
some kind of
Yeah.
sandwich, maybe if they're having a sandwich. So maybe some peanut butter on bread, some jam on bread, some cheese on. Like, so I hear that kind of thing a lot. Jam on bread is the worst, but you hear that kind of
Yeah.
thing a lot.
Okay.
And it's but so again, when you're depressed, you're not thinking about nutrition. You're thinking about get this horrible feeling out of my stomach so that I can go back and lay down and pretend like the world's not happening.
Okay.
And so
Okay. So let's like I guess speculate a little bit. A person that been on keto for a good number of years would probably have an easier time staying on keto with snacking with nuts, maybe, or that person still, you think, because like the carbs are out of it, like its system for been out like of the system for a while. Like, is that person still gonna look out for carbs even, or because I don't know where I want to go. Like somebody that's maybe in his first year of keto, like the carbs appeal is still like really there. So probably what would be better for that person is just like, okay, try to eat something even though it's not keto, and get back to keto when you feel better, versus that person that's been on keto for 3, 4, 5 years. Would you see it like a difference there?
so what's interesting to me right now, and so this is where my brain went with that, is that I think that part of the reason now okay, so disclaimer. This is Violet's ideas right now. I don't have any book to back this up, but this is just me looking at some information that I've recently learned. I think that part of the reason that depression rates are so high is because we eat so many carbohydrates. So you're saying someone's on keto. I feel like people who eat properly
Are less likely.
are less likely to run away from solving a problem.
Okay.
Right? If I've actually allowed myself to learn to eat properly, which took work and effort and commitment and engagement in teaching myself that this food, as tasty as it might be, is not helping me. So, right? If I've allowed myself to go through that process, I also do believe that people who've done that are much more likely to face a problem head on. So there's the grief process, like someone passes, what like so, but there's also like so something happens in my life, and of course I'm going to initially have that cortisol reaction. But if my insulin isn't out of whack, causing my cortisol already to be too much in my system, then when I get that cortisol reaction from something bad happening in my life,
Cortisol is the cortisol is the stress hormone,
the
right?
stress
And just for the
hormone,
viewers, okay.
right? I'm actually going to react to it because it's not always high all the time. And I feel like that's actually going to push me to act. So you see, like, I just felt there was a bit of an incompatibility when you said, well, someone who's on keto who becomes
Okay.
depressed, oof, like, I mean, I'm not saying it's
It's
impossible. Of course, life happens, things happen, but I just wonder if I might be able to better manage that situation where it doesn't become depressed. So I might still be extremely sad, but does it become depression if my cortisol is not already out of whack? This is Violet's ideas. Again, I'm saying this out loud. I have nothing to back this up. I'm just looking at what I've learned so far about cortisol and insulin. I'm looking at, for the clients who I have been talking to who have changed their food, how much better they're coping with life. So I do feel there's a connection there. I know that there's a book that I want to read that I haven't had a chance to read yet since I'm learning about that connection. I can't remember something about the mind and sugar, but I can't remember the name of the article right now. I might, if I remember it, I'll put it up on the screen. But about the book, sorry, I'll put it up on the screen. But like again, I feel like there's a connection.
Okay.
I feel like depression. There's more people who are depressed today because our sugar is out of whack, and when life gets hard, we don't manage well because our cortisol is always on. It's
Okay.
it's on. It's or high, elevated. It's it's up. So many people are anxious today. Again, it's elevated. It's up, and so that's my answer.
Okay. You want to dive in the article now? What they recommend as tips and tricks and how to
I'm
to
not sure. Do I
manage?
want do I want to hear what the article has to say?
Well, it's time to put back some fun if we were too serious for the few minutes. No, I'm actually happy because like there's some things you said that like make sense from like the article is not all bad. So
Okay.
things you should remember. Like the author, I feel like he's a psychologist.
Oh,
Says in quote, like, I would rather you eat a box of macaroni and cheese than nothing at all.
I
That's
disagree.
called harm reduction.
I
But
disagree.
like, but you, well, you need to eat.
So it depends. It depends again, right? Like I would rather them eat okay, then nothing at all, like for weeks, yes.
Yeah,
For
that's it.
a day, no.
Okay,
Right? Again, like it depends.
but
Like if they get hungry tomorrow, would they eat? So like I said, I have some clients that can go days, and that's scary.
yeah.
But if
Because
depends. So
he or she, I don't remember if it's a guy or a girl, the worst harm is not eating at all. So we don't disagree with that. Like, you should eat
at
completely
all,
at
like
all. Like, the worst harm is not eating at all.
for
The
days.
second worst is eating the macaroni and cheese. So you should, like, in
Yeah, if we're talking
perspective,
about for
yeah,
days,
for
yes.
days, yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
will
for
agree
sure.
with him. I'm assuming he's talking about for day. See, okay, so here's where I'm pausing. Everybody, he's a keto person? Is he keto? Is this
No,
article with
I don't
someone who's
think so.
keto?
I don't think so. No,
Okay,
no, it's not a
so here's
keto.
okay. So this is why I disagree. If you're actually depressed, and then you don't eat for one day, but you eat tomorrow, and what you eat is macaroni and cheese. Okay, you didn't eat anything today. You eat tomorrow macaroni and cheese. Yeah, I agree with him. Like eat something.
It's okay.
But at the same time, what I will say is that if for some reason I would become depressed next month, okay, let's say it happened, I became depressed and I did not eat, chances are I wouldn't be so worried about that though. Like me, Violet. Now I'm talking about
Yeah.
Violet because as much as I would be depressed about whatever the topic is, I'm not going to lose my intelligence. I know that I don't need to eat for a few days. So if I'm too sad to make a meal, it's better for me to not eat for 4 days and then eat something proper than to eat tomorrow and eat macaroni and cheese. So it
Yeah.
depends on where you're starting from.
Okay.
If you're someone who was already doing low carb, I disagree with what he said.
Okay.
If you were doing standard American diet, I agree with what he said.
Okay.
So I'm going to put it like that.
Okay. If depression suppresses your appetite, the author says to focus on what feels good or looks good to you in the moment. So I guess it can't be bad, but actually make sure that what looks good and feels good at the moment is not like crap food. I don't know if when you're depressed, like you, or maybe have somebody help you to have some salads and meat always available instead of
So,
the
okay, so
cookies and the chocolate and the chips, and because
again,
you don't want to
it,
cook.
it
Again, we were starting with a premise where you're too depressed
to cook.
to cook, or your appetite is suppressed.
So again, what I'm going to say there is this. If I'm at the point where I'm starving, yeah, I'm saying feed the person whatever you can get into the person. Like if this person hasn't eaten in like a month, feed the person. Well, wouldn't be a month. Well, yeah, it could be a month. No, it depends how much you weigh. Like
Yeah.
feed the person whatever you can get into them. But that's not usually what happens, right? So like, but I mean, again, like I see clients that are losing weight, but they're not losing weight to the point where there's starvation,
Like in
right?
trouble.
I've had clients that have lost large chunks of weight, but not again. But at some point they do eat. So, but what I will say is, especially if you know you're depressed and you're trying to solve, so it's because this article assumes you're trying to solve. I'm reaching out to my mother, I'm reaching out to my sister or brother, I'm reaching out to somebody who can cook me some meals and just say, listen, I'm too depressed to cook. Please make me some healthy meals because if they're there, all I have to do is heat them up. I might eat them. You know what? You might eat a third of what they bring to you because, again, don't forget, you don't have an appetite. But if you're conscious enough to be doing what he's saying, that you're looking for something, you're trying to push yourself, if the food is there, you are more likely to heat it up than if you have to make it for yourself. Depressed people tend not to do anything positive for themselves. So, really, now, the minimum that you need to do in that scenario is say yes when somebody reaches out to you and says, do you want me to make you something to eat?
Yeah.
Is saying yes,
Saying yes.
right? I honestly believe that in that story, a meal that you would eat in one day will probably last you 3 days.
Okay.
But at least it's a real meal. It's real food. It's what you're used to eating.
Okay.
And that's the other thing, right? Your family is going to make you what they know you will actually eat.
Okay. So let's review some tips that the other. That's where I got confused because like like I said, the article title is how to stay keto when feeling depressed, and all of those tips and tricks that the author give are all to me but keto. So maybe we can just like fix
Okay.
them. Just try to fix them.
Okay.
Like what the article should have
So,
been. Should
but
have
I'm
been.
sorry, the person is saying how to stay keto
How to
when
stay
you're
keto when
depressed.
you're depressed, but all the tips and tricks, like when you
So that's
don't
why you're
have
saying
appetite.
you don't think the person's keto.
Yeah. That's like kind of weird. So,
Okay.
okay. So, like the paragraph goes. However, there are some things you can keep in your kitchen at all times, so you're prepared for the next time a depression episode hits.
So this is
First,
assuming that you got better.
you got better maybe the next time, or like what you have on hand. So the first thing is our protein bars.
Okay, so that's making the assumption that protein bars are low in carb. If I'm keto, and this article is trying to help me to be prepared for the next event, because it's true that if someone becomes depressed, there's a chance they could become depressed again if they haven't really figured out correctly why they became depressed in the first place. So finding solutions is really important. But the question is, what do I keep? And I'm keeping protein bars. Most protein bars are high in carbohydrate.
Yeah.
So and I'm just trying to think, and even keto-friendly protein bars tend to be high in carbohydrates. So I use the word keto-friendly with a little bit of hesitation there. I do find that they're typically high in carbs. So I just trying to put this in perspective. If I'm depressed and I'm not feeding myself properly, and the only thing I have, one of the things I have in the house to how to help myself is a protein bar that's even 7 grams, 5 grams of carbs. If Well, I'm trying to be a keto-friendly one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt, and I'm talking about a keto-friendly one. This is where I find it hard to believe. Like seriously, if I have 2 of those, or even I'm still just right. The quality of fat, and
Then if we can make a recommendation, we talked about on past weeks.
to have a keto brick.
Keto brick.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
a keto brick would be better macros and
now the
probably
thing
better
is
for-
that I do agree, having some keto bricks around might be a better choice than a protein bar. And again, I think I was being really generous with 5. It's probably more like 7. But anyways, but the keto bricks are very low in carb, and they're actually complete meal replacements, right? There's 1,000 calorie bars with how many grams of carbs? 2, or it's between 2 and 4. So you have to be careful because some of them are shelf stable and some of them aren't. You have to if you're buying this as a just in case thing, that you're going to want it to be able to sit on the shelf for a few months, and maybe you'd only eat or replace it every few months. So, but that is another thing, that if you felt yourself becoming depressed, but I don't see how a protein bar, how many of these am I going to eat in a day? That's the other thing, is that protein bars tend to be low in total calories. And I'm only saying calories for the understanding of energy. If I'm trying to use this to fuel myself for the day, it's not going to be enough.
It's not going to be enough. All right. Okay, so then she goes on with another thing. We want things but that's where I feel like it's more like a low carb thing. But the article really says keto, so that's why I'm bringing this up. So we want things like whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, but even unsweetened dried fruits is fine. So the
Again,
things you
these
need
are
to
not
keep-
keto-friendly foods
so
at
the
all.
things you need to keep in your kitchen, at all
So first of
time
all,
when you're
let's be careful,
depressed.
because I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. If I'm depressed and then I start ingesting high carb foods, so especially if I was keto, because this article is how to stay keto. So if I start ingesting high carb foods, I'm pushing my cortisol all over the place now. I'm pushing my insulin all over the place now.
You even feel worse after.
I theoretically believe I would feel worse. It doesn't make any sense at all that that's what's going to help me in the time that I need to be stable. Right? Shouldn't I be making sure that I keep my sugars stable? So I'm I'm confused.
So better choices, salad.
I
Even
want to keep this
back
better
of-
choices till the end, because I want to
okay,
hear what
okay,
else,
yeah,
because
okay.
I actually have a few different choices in my head in terms of
Okay.
foods that we should keep.
Also recommends whole grain cereals that are either unsweetened or sweetened with very lightly, or sweetened very lightly. Oatmeal with a tablespoon
Whoever
of
is writing
peanut
this
butter.
article does not understand keto at all.
all, I know.
This is the reason that we do these videos, you guys, because whoever is writing this article started off with the buzzword, how to stay keto, and then is giving you complete garbage in terms of staying keto. Everything that's being listed right now is stuff that's going to be, how much you're going to eat. A teaspoon? That's not going to fuel you for the day. These are not keto-friendly foods.
Yeah. So oatmeal.
And I'm
with
not trying to be the keto police. at all,
No, but like, yeah,
these foods
right.
that they're
No, yeah,
listing is
that's
not going to help you to stay in a ketogenic state while you're depressed. It's going to
yeah.
spike your sugar,
So oatmeal with
your
a
insulin.
tablespoon of peanut of oatmeal with a tablespoon of peanut butter, like peanut butter maybe. Oatmeal, no, or even popcorn with peanut butter on it. So
So popcorn and peanut butter, I would throw away
yeah,
completely. And if the oatmeal and peanut butter, what I would say is leave off the oatmeal. Just have the peanut butter.
yeah,
Just have the
true.
peanut butter. Like you have some nuts. Like, I mean, again, we're trying to get something into this person, and we want it to be something that's going to fuel them. If they're fat adapted, we're looking for the fat, not the carbs. Popcorn is a bunch of carbs. Oatmeal is a bunch of
Yeah,
carbs. Like the truth is, so I can't talk for everybody. I know that when I go over my carbs, I actually physically don't feel well. So you have somebody who you're saying is keto and fat adapted, they become depressed, and then you're gonna give them sugar. If
yeah.
they're anything like me, now physically they're gonna feel
They're gonna
bad
feel worse.
and they're
Yeah.
in a bad place in their mind. I feel like you're just double whamming them at that point. What is the point of this? It's better for them to have not eaten.
Yeah.
At that point, it's actually better for them to have not eaten. So I would suggest, like, okay, no, I have
Yeah,
other
after
suggestions,
after suggestion. Okay, let's go
but I
because
want to
there's
hear what
just
else
still a
they.
few. Yeah, yeah. Another registered dietitian suggests keeping your pantry stocked with things like cans of tuna, again, or oatmeal to support a balanced intake. So cans of tuna
I don't mind the tuna if you put some
yeah,
olive oil on it.
yeah, and oatmeal we already talked about that. And lastly, peanut butter or any type of nut or seed butter is a great item also to have. Enjoy. Yeah, that's good. Enjoy it on whole grain crackers, a slice of whole grain toast, or with fruit, she said.
People, this is
So
not a
that's
keto
like,
friendly
no,
article. If you're depressed, reintroducing carbohydrates is
it's not gonna
not
solve
going to
it.
help your depression. As a matter of fact, it's going to throw your insulin off, which is going to throw your cortisol off, which is going to make it harder for you to be able to manage your emotions. I don't believe that this is a good article.
Okay,
What I would suggest, if
so,
you're,
so and it's just gonna make me pause. So depressed or not, maybe you just don't want to cook like one evening, like you don't have your kids, you're tired, or so depressed or not, like there's better choices than what's being said in the article.
yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, that article is absolutely not keto friendly. Like, absolutely not. What you need to do if you're depressed is focus on energy, fat, and building blocks for your body, protein. So if I'm depressed and I know that I'm going to eat just a very small amount of anything because I'm depressed and I have no appetite, I'm going for pepperoni sticks. I'm going for cheese. I'm going for nuts and nut butters. And I'm going for,
Eggs
if if I
hard boiled eggs
eggs, yeah.
are
I
easy.
mean, again, when you go to the fun foods, scrambling an egg, boiling an egg, omeleting an egg is much easier. It's going to take me a minute or two in the kitchen if I'm actually hungry. Honestly, if you have children, your kids can make it for you. Like, it's that easy to cook an egg. So, but if nobody's there to cook for me, pepperoni sticks, pepperoni, like the little pepperonis that you throw on a pizza. Like, seriously, I'm going to be hardcore, like lazy, just get something in me that I know is going to help me to move forward. Like, I do think that there is a way to fuel yourself without introducing carbs and throwing all of your hormones off. The other thing that I would suggest, because you need to drink, I would put fat in my coffee, right? Now consider you're depressed, you're not moving around a lot. I wouldn't put a lot of fat in the coffee, but maybe a teaspoon per coffee, just because you're probably going to drink more coffee because you're not eating. But I still suggest pepperoni, some kind of meat. Like, honestly,
Patty
throw a
meats.
burger patty in the oven. Throw, like, again, coming from someone who doesn't like to cook, I understand that if you're depressed, the last thing you want to do is take care of yourself. This is just reality. We don't want to do it. But allowing yourself to throw a burger in the oven, it's easier. You probably could do that. Right? As a matter of fact, I probably would cook 12 of them one shot so that I don't have to do it again for 12
Yeah.
days.
Oh, the pork rinds also maybe could be a good option to dip, to spread stuff.
So that peanut butter on
On
pork
pork
rinds,
rinds.
yeah, might be a good
Yeah,
idea. Like,
better.
honestly, what you're trying to do is you're just trying to get yourself to the point where you're not dealing with hunger so that you can solve the problem that's in front of you. In actuality, the solution to all of this is solve the whatever it is that's causing you to be depressed. You need to solve it. If it's the divorce, if it's the passing of someone, then that's not really depression, that's grief, but you need to live that grief and go through the grief. If it's a loss of job, if it's a loss of friendship, if it's a lot, like whatever is happening in your life that's causing you to be depressed, if it's maybe you just don't know what you want to do with your life, and you're trying to like reorganize, but you need to solve it. The real answer is solve it, right? So like that's the real answer, not self-soothing with carby foods, right? That's what that article is asking you to do. It's asking you to self-soothe with carby foods. And when you're feeling good, you weren't doing that to yourself. So why on earth would you do it to yourself when you're feeling poorly, when you're depressed? It doesn't make any sense. It's not because you're depressed that you lose common sense. You still know what's healthy to eat and what's not healthy to eat, right? You're just not interested. So you can make better choices at that point in time. And it's going to help you to do the other things, which is solve the problem. So, this is a very serious article today, but I liked it. I like when I have to try to problem solve things. So, this is the kind of information that when we find it, it just kind of riles me up and makes me frustrated, because what are they telling people? If you're trying to do keto, 9, 10, 20 grams of carbs in one sitting, it's not good. You're just hurting yourself. And then, oh my God, I didn't even think about this. You're going to eat what they're telling you to eat while you're depressed. And what's going to happen? Your weight's going to go up. And then what's going to happen? You're going to be even more depressed. You do all this work to be at a good weight, and then your weight's rising because you...
Not good.
Not to mention that if you become depressed and you're depressed for long enough, your doctor is going to start trying to push medication on you. And if you're unable to solve it and you end up taking the medication, guess what the medication does? Causes your weight to rise. So eating these foods when you're in the first beginning process trying to solve for yourself is not going to help you, right? If your weight's already starting to rise and then you start taking that medication, there's just too much here. Anyways, these kind of articles, they frustrate me. But
yeah, it's been a while since we bashed an article.
It's been a while. It's been a while. I want to thank everyone for stopping. My Wellness Warriors, I always love it when you guys come by and you leave good comments. I want you guys to actually comment. Have you ever been in the situation where you felt like you were just too upset? Might not have been fully depressed, but just too upset to cook? What did you do? How did you manage that situation? Tell us in the comments what you did. I want to thank my Wellness Warriors as always. If you are not already subscribed, please subscribe. Ring the bell so you know when all the videos are coming out, because we make videos every week. And if you like these videos and you find that this is helping you to stay on track, learn more about keto, learn more about being healthy in general, as today was about depression, please feel free to go to my Patreon.com/Violet Rivera, where you can find information about contributing to production of more videos. I want to thank you guys for watching Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition. We love making these videos for you guys and can't wait to see you guys next week.
I'll see you next week.